The guy was chilling, just gaming, when he suddenly told his girlfriend to get on her knees. He just wanted to experience that wild rush you get when fire and ice clash. Out of nowhere, her mouth stretched wide, reaching all the way up to her ears. Her scream blasted through his headset, catching the guy off guard while he kept pushing the tower. He didn't freak out or anything. He just walked up and took out the enemy's crystal like it was no big deal. He tried to remember which door it was, then finally opened it up, where his gorgeous neighbor was still banging away. He let her in to hide, but told her to keep her eyes shut before stepping inside. She nodded and headed inside, basically giving him the green light to do whatever. The whole thing felt less like she was asking for help, and more like she was agreeing to something shady. In the blink of an eye, the guy grabbed a kitchen knife and just took her head clean off. No pause, no second thoughts. Out of nowhere, a system message popped up saying the zombie threat was gone, and he just earned some points. Fan was just a regular dude working as an interior designer, living by himself. Just an hour earlier, he'd stepped up and helped out a neighbor who was really struggling. Out of nowhere, she changed and just sank her teeth into him. Right when he died, he suddenly got linked up with a survival system built for the zombie apocalypse. When that connection happened, he suddenly found himself an hour before he died, like life had just hit the rewind button. Fan used his fresh points to boost his strength, and right away he could tell he got way stronger. At the same time, the neighbor's body, still missing her head, ended up grabbing the attention of another zombie, pulling it right over to where everything was going down. As Fan pushed open the door, the thing inside finally spotted him. Its messed up head slowly turned his way, and those nasty, decaying eyes zeroed in right on him. Seconds ticked by, then the creature suddenly roared from deep in its chest and charged straight for the new prey. Fan swung hard, nailing another zombie and sending its head rolling across the ground. Another notification flashed on his screen. He took down a zombie and racked up some points. Fan stared at what was left of his neighbor, barely even looking human anymore. He knew more zombies were on the way, no doubt about it. He just needed to chill behind the door and catch them off guard when they showed up. About an hour later, the hallway was stacked with bodies everywhere. His points shot up like crazy. After that, he looked everywhere for the neighbor's body, but it was just gone. He started thinking that maybe she'd already been eaten. That would seriously mess things up. He looked at the mess in the hallway and just shook his head. Stuff was already starting to go bad, and since everyone walks through here, he knew he had to deal with it. Cleaning up was the only move. He picked up a rope and started tying the bodies up, making sure they were all stuck together. He was right about to haul them over to the trash pile. The ceiling light started flickering and making this annoying buzzing noise. At the corner, a guy in a wheelchair showed up, rolling forward slow and steady. There was this middle-aged dude who used to mess around with stealing wires. One time, he got electrocuted so bad that he only made it out alive because he lost both his legs. When the guy saw Fan was still breathing, something snapped. He just lost it and charged at him like he hadn't eaten in days. Fan stayed cool and just went for it, slicing down another enemy without breaking a sweat. Uncle usually stayed on the second floor, so seeing him up on the seventh was kind of wild. He actually made the trip just to bring over his wheelchair. He couldn't believe his luck. Uncle showed up right when he was trying to figure out how to move all these bodies. Uncle really came through for him this time. He took what he needed, planning to bring it back later. Fan took all the bodies and tossed them in the dumpster outside, making sure nobody saw him. Fan just stood there, still trying to wrap his head around it. The world was actually over. Now staying alive meant stacking up whatever supplies he could find. As he looked around, he started questioning if all this stuff was straight-up junk or if any of it was even worth keeping. Living by himself was rough. He had nobody around, so all his random questions just bounced off the walls. Right then, Uncle Joe's kid from the second floor, the one who's always messed up on something, spotted him and threw a lazy wave. That bald dude had messed with in the past. One time he straight up Jack's bike and things got so bad the cops had to step in. Even after dropping the bike back off, the next day he still went after Fan and roughed him up over it. Fan shot him a cold look, clearly not in the mood for games. He just wanted to know what the guy was after. The bald guy just stopped in his tracks. He couldn't believe this dude really said something out loud, like, is he not worried about zombies pulling up? He grinned to himself, realizing this guy would be easy to handle. He felt hungry, so he figured he might as well let someone else do the heavy lifting for once. He grabbed a random piece of paper and started writing fast. He told them to look for some food and water and drop it off right at his door. Fan just shook his head. He wasn't about to go, no matter what anyone said. The bald guy's lips started shaking. He looked like he was about to lose it. Under his breath, he let out some words, barely holding back his anger. He picked up his phone and typed out another message, telling her to just follow his lead if she wanted to stick around. He promised that when the moment was right, he'd bring her to this secret spot he knew about. Fan just stayed chill. He wasn't moving yet. His face changed fast, eyes narrowing as he got seriously pissed. He was done holding back. If that guy wanted to go out, he was ready to make it happen. He really went for it, yelling as he chucked a bunch of metal plates right at Fan's door. The plates crashed onto the floor, making this loud, echoing noise that you couldn't ignore. A few seconds later, the hallway went wild with zombie growls, and a bunch of them started rushing straight at Fan. From the second floor, the bald guy just stood there cracking up, clearly loving every second. He looked down, seeing the other dude totally stuck, not even able to move his legs anymore. That tough guy vibe from earlier, nowhere to be found. Fan didn't waste a second. He grabbed his kitchen knife and just went for it, taking out 2 zombie heads in one smooth move. Right away, the system popped off. He just got 2 kills and racked up 2 points. The bald dude just froze, not laughing anymore. He realized this guy was actually no joke, seriously strong. He stared him down, not impressed at all. Sure, the guy had skills, but that didn't matter to him. There was still another zombie crawling around, and he figured the other guy was too slow to keep up now. In his mind, anyone who tried to go against him was done for. Fan tossed the last zombie over his shoulder. He could have finished it off right there, but decided to let it go instead. He just chilled for a second, then casually tossed it up the stairs. That was his way of sending something special straight to the bald dude. The guy grabbed it without even thinking, and right away he realized how dumb that was. He couldn't believe he actually did that. Screams were bouncing off the walls, but Fan just chilled and waved like nothing was going on. If anyone was confused or wanted to know something, he figured they should just ask, better than standing there solo like he was. Fan pulled up to a supermarket close by. As soon as he stepped inside, he handled a bunch of zombies hanging around like it was nothing. With his stuff in hand, he headed over to the register like he always did, only to find the cashier had totally turned into a zombie. He figured his supplies would keep him going for a bit. He'd grabbed some seeds too, planning to plant them somewhere safe and maybe start living off whatever grew. His knife, though, was basically trashed at this point. He started thinking about picking up a new weapon. He spotted a bus tearing down the street, engine loud and coming straight for him. The engine roared so loud that zombies started piling in from everywhere almost instantly. Bright headlights flashed in his eyes, and all those old memories from his rough childhood came flooding back. Back when Fan was a kid, he lost his mom in an accident. His dad was so set on being with his girlfriend that he started making plans to leave him behind. Fan started crying, and that set off the woman, his so-called auntie. She totally lost it, looking at him like she couldn't stand another second of the noise. Suddenly, the woman grabbed the wheel right out of Fan's dad's hands. She was clearly done with his attitude and was ready to pull the bus over just to set him straight. The car crashed straight into a truck coming the other way. Fan was stuck in his own head, lost in that old, gloomy memory, when the bus driver's loud voice suddenly pulled him back to reality. The driver tossed a question his way, snapping out of it. He turned away, not even thinking about taking him along. He basically left him behind to deal with the zombies on his own. A kid with glasses stood nearby, looking worried. He knew they couldn't just ditch the guy, since the zombies they brought in could actually get him hurt. Remembering what the teacher said about helping others, he couldn't just walk away. Right as he was talking, the driver just went off and cut his own throat, then spat like he didn't care about anything. He tossed out some words, basically saying teachers didn't matter to him anymore. It was the end of the world, and he was going to do whatever he wanted. He looked at the dude with glasses like he was nothing, making it clear he wasn't about to take any lessons from anyone. He shot a nasty look, clearly annoyed. He'd always had it out for the smart kids at school, thinking they just sucked up to the teachers. Now that the teacher wasn't around to back anyone up, he saw them as easy targets. He figured since the guy was all about helping people, he'd go easy on him. So he decided to send him down, making sure he wouldn't be alone. He pushed the kid out of the bus and took off. He kept checking his mirror while driving away, eyes darting back every few seconds, clearly on edge. He really showed up with just a kitchen knife, like he was about to take on the whole crowd by himself. Seriously, this dude just added himself to the list. Fan snapped back to reality, telling himself he wasn't going down like that. He and his mom promised each other something. He decided it was time to step up and actually be the good guy she always saw in him. He launched his kitchen knife right at the bus tire, not even hesitating. Thanks to all the strength he had stacked up, his blade went straight through the rubber like it was nothing. The bus tipped over, crashed into a sign, and ended up flipping onto its side. The driver, who acted like he owned the road, was now yelling so loud, he sounded like he was in serious pain. He realized he messed up and needed help, so he swallowed his pride and admitted it, hoping someone would have his back. Fan shot him a cold look. He could tell the guy wasn't actually sorry. He was just panicking now that he knew he was done for. He shot a quick smirk, remembering the squad just pulled up. No point in sticking around, so he dipped and let them have their moment. He just stopped in his tracks, totally still. He couldn't get what was going on. He didn't have any friends, so who was this even about? His mind started racing as the other person walked off, and deep down, he really wanted them to turn around and help him out. Out of nowhere, the kid he'd taken out showed up right in front of the bus. The swarm of zombies that had been after him finally caught up, ripping into him without holding back. Fan's strength was now up to 35 points, which was actually kind of wild. He walked past an apartment building nearby. Up above, there was a woman's voice. She was an orphan mom with her kid. He noticed the guy and wondered how he even made it through all those zombies at the intersection. But honestly, that didn't matter right now. There was something way more important going on. Fan was just walking by, not really thinking about stopping. But then he noticed this little girl next to her, looking super hungry. He couldn't just walk away and pretend he didn't see them. He stepped up to the door and spotted the woman on her knees. She looked tired, probably desperate, asking for some food. Her husband was gone and she was out of options, just trying to get a little something for her kid. It was clear she didn't want much, just enough to keep her daughter going. Fan passed her a couple of pumpkins and a winter squash. She definitely didn't expect that, since it felt like money didn't even matter anymore. Still, she took them. Fan's eyes landed on a fake weapon hanging up on the wall. She grabbed the sword her husband kept around for his gaming obsession. He was always buying random props like that. She handed it over, figuring he might as well take it since things were getting sketchy outside. Having something to protect yourself with just made sense right now. Fan kind of felt guilty grabbing it, but there was no way he was letting it go. She told him to just pretend, saying she and her daughter would be fine without it. He was the one who really needed it anyway. Fan gave a quick wave as he left, making sure to keep it chill. He let them know he wasn't just going to take stuff without paying and told them to hit him up if they ever needed something. The little girl just stared, kinda confused by how he acted, but her mom leaned in and said maybe they were actually the ones who had it all wrong. Fan checked out the prop weapon, totally hyped. He'd seen all over the internet and always wanted to get his hands on one. Just thinking about taking down zombies with it, he knew it was going to be awesome. Right then, a woman dropped out of nowhere and landed hard right in front of him. Her skin was covered in bruises, big blue and purple marks standing out on the parts that weren't hurt. Up on the 5th floor balcony, a heavyset guy stood there looking ticked off, scratches all over his face. He just shook his head, thinking it was a waste and wondering how long it'd take to find something that good again. Lying there, Fan noticed right away, the woman had been through some really rough stuff. He saw the same look in her eyes that his mom had when she walked out on his dad, straight up hopeless and mad, like she was done with everything. He wanted to stand up for her, so he went straight to the fat guy and called him out. He needed to know why the dude acted like that. The guy just stopped in his tracks. He really didn't think there'd be anyone else outside. He glared and started talking trash, acting like he owned the place. He made it clear he did whatever he wanted with the women there and didn't care who showed up or tried to check him. To him, this was his zone and anyone else was just in the way. Fan realized he couldn't just stand around. The mom and kid who gave him were living here too, so he had to step up. He grabbed the body, checked each level, and made sure the fat guy was chilling on the 5th floor. The fat guy figured Fan just showed up to grab some leftovers. He wondered if Fan was actually planning to mess with the body for kicks. In his mind, messing with a dead body was pointless. At least a blow-up doll does something. He lifted his chin, that smug look all over his face. He was basically daring anyone to stick around, like he was ready to snap and make sure they regretted it. He dropped onto the couch, grumbling under his breath, and popped open a cold beer. He thought about checking out the building later to see if there were any cool things to grab. With the world basically ending, he could do whatever he wanted now. It honestly felt awesome being in charge. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. The big guy shot up from his seat, snatched a wooden stick, and pressed his face to the peephole. He wanted to see who was banging on the door, half expecting something wild like a zombie showing up. He glanced down the hallway and realized it was packed with those things. Figuring out how he was supposed to find anyone new to mess with now felt impossible. He looked through the peephole and just stopped in his tracks. The woman he'd just tortured to death was standing right there. He started shaking, even though he usually never gets scared. Outside, just stood there, holding the body like it was nothing, and started knocking on the door, totally chill. He knew someone was inside and wasn't about to leave. When Fan spoke up, the fat guy let out a deep breath, looking pretty relieved. As soon as he realized who it was, he just started roasting him, basically telling Fan to get out of his face and stop acting wild. Clearly, he wasn't trying to deal with Fan's chaos today. He couldn't help but smirk, thinking he had this all figured out. If he just yelled real loud, the zombies would show up and handle that guy for him. In his mind, this plan was actually genius. Out of nowhere, the heavy door blasted open with a crazy loud crash. The fat guy dropped to the floor, totally dazed. His eyes went wide. He couldn't believe he actually just booted a steel door open. Fan looked around the room and noticed all sorts of torture gear just lying everywhere. The fat guy got up, still grumbling under his breath. He was clearly annoyed, wondering why someone was dragging a dead body into his place like it was no big deal. He looked ready to throw hands if things got any weirder. Just nodded super chill like he had it all planned out. He made sure she was there, ready to watch him finally get what he had coming. Just a few minutes later, he had the big guy all tied up with a gag stuck in his mouth, basically prepped and good to go for a drop-off at the police station. The fat guy started freaking out, trying hard to break free. He thought this whole thing was nuts. The whole scene felt like something straight out of a zombie movie or one of those apocalypse books. He knew that if someone had been through what he had, they'd get how to handle themselves and just keep going. There was something awesome about doing whatever you wanted, no rules holding you back. Fan just smacked him, no hesitation. He couldn't believe the guy couldn't tell stories from real life. It was like, seriously, how do you mess that up? The slap landed so hard, the guy got launched right through the doors of the police station. The guy stood there totally out of it, his whole body stinging. He just couldn't figure out what was real anymore. He looked around, not really bothered. In his mind, the world was already over, nobody left, no rules, nobody to answer to. Nothing anyone did now would really matter. Fan just gave a cold grin. He knew something the others, there was still one more person. The guy glanced over to his right, and his whole body just froze up when he caught that nasty, rotten breath creeping up behind him. Zombie cops closed in around him, uniform still on and all. Fan kept his cool, barely raising his voice. It was wild, these guys, even after turning undead, still went after the bad guys. Justice never clocked out, not even for zombies. The next morning, an armored truck pulled up right in front of the city library. 3 survivors got out and started looking everywhere for medical textbooks. They scanned the area, not spotting any zombies anywhere. For a second, it felt like they actually caught a break. Their leader, a woman with eyes that caught everything, lifted her hand to signal the group to chill and hold back. She knocked her knife against a metal pillar, clang clang, checking things out and seeing how the air felt around her. Both of her friends got tense, looking like they might sprint off any second if a bunch of enemies showed up. Nothing happened, so she just nodded and got moving. First stop, the medical section. Out of nowhere, Fan popped up from behind a shelf, flashing a chill smile at them. One guy totally lost it and dropped to the ground, eyes wide. He couldn't believe what he just saw, a zombie that could actually talk. Fan started waving his hands like crazy, trying to get everyone to chill. He wanted them to know he was just a regular guy and definitely not a ghost. She gave him a look, not impressed. Fan just held up his book, something about growing vegetables, and shot a quick grin. He was clearly just chilling in the library, getting some reading in, pretty much what anyone does there. One of the guys kind of nodded, like he actually thought it made sense, but the boss shot him a look, basically telling him to zip it. She talked to Fan in a chill way, letting him know they weren't trying to cause any problems, and apologized for bugging him. Fan just nodded and told them to quiet down since they were in the library. The 3 looked at each other, all thinking something was off. One of them noticed the sword she had. It looked just like a weapon from a game he played. Usually someone carrying a sword like that wouldn't be a big deal, but right now, it made this guy seem kind of unhinged. The leader knew he couldn't afford to mess things up. Whether the guy was a setup or just straight up unpredictable, it wasn't worth poking the bear. He decided to just grab the books fast and dip out without making a scene. She could just tell this guy wasn't the type you wanted to mess with. There wasn't anything obvious, just something deep down telling her to watch out. The 3 of them picked up the pace, grabbing stuff quick and keeping things quiet so they wouldn't get caught up in anything. Fan was chilling with his book when he noticed everyone getting ready to head out. He looked up, realizing they were about to bounce. The 3 of them froze up, thinking he was about to start something. The leader kept it cool, trying to act chill and see what he wanted. Noticed how many books he was grabbing and pointed out that he should probably check them out properly. Those books weren't just his to take, so he had to make sure they got logged as a loan. The 3 of them just stopped in their tracks. One guy spit on the ground, clearly not having it. He looked at the other and basically called him out like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. It was obvious he thought the other dude was totally clueless about what was happening outside, and even questioned if he came straight from a psych ward. The leader thought his reasoning was kind of weird, but stayed chill and wanted to know if he had any clue about what was actually going on outside. Fan just shrugged, acting like it was no big deal. The world was ending, zombies were everywhere biting people, but honestly it didn't really feel all that different for him. The leader's face got serious. No one could tell if he was actually losing it or just putting on an act. One guy picked up on something sketchy about to go down. He thought, man, you have no clue what's waiting outside, don't do anything dumb. But then he just shrugged it off, deciding to keep to himself and not get involved. Calmed everyone down, letting them know he wasn't looking to start anything. He pointed out that things were pretty wild outside, so it was better not to mess around. He introduced himself as saying he lived in Building 2, Unit 704 at Sunshine Complex. If anyone ran into problems, he told them to look for him. He made it clear he could handle himself, even if a bunch of zombies showed up. They all just went quiet. No doubt about it, this dude's actually lost it. Time to bounce. The leader nodded at Fan, then she and her 2 teammates dipped out of the library fast. Fan didn't even have time to process what just happened. They vanished in seconds. It was so quick, he didn't even catch their names. He just shrugged it off. Mornings were honestly the best shot to figure stuff out anyway. If he wanted to make it on his own, he had to get the hang of farming, no excuses. Under the desert, way below the surface, a bunch of scientists in suits were grinding away, totally focused on whatever project they had going on. Every day, he noticed the zombie cells got more active, like they were leveling up or something. It almost seemed like they were starting to change, maybe even getting stronger. He pushed everything else aside. What he really wanted to know was if they could actually make an antibody. But the answer was a hard no. This virus was on a whole other level, nothing like anything they'd dealt with before, not even close to the usual stuff. Everyone's heard about the zombie gene. The whole idea is wild. People actually died but then showed up again, just not as themselves anymore. Back in the city, Fan snapped his farming book shut and headed back to his apartment building. He spotted a spot of open ground that looked perfect for planting some crops. The only problem was it was public property, so doing anything there could bring zombies his way or get him in trouble with the neighbors. Fan stood there and let everyone know his name and exactly where he lived. He made it clear he was about to start planting veggies right there, and if anybody had an issue, they could speak up now. Just like anyone could guess, his yell basically called over all the zombies close by. People inside the buildings start breaking their own windows and just leap out. Within seconds, the whole lot was packed with zombies everywhere. Fan grabbed and sliced right through them, their bodies splitting apart easily, almost like cutting into tofu. His system points shot up fast. A few minutes passed and bodies were everywhere. Fan knew his garden was safe now, no more zombies popping up out of nowhere. Fan wasn't done yet. He called out to the whole neighborhood, making sure nobody else had anything to say. Nothing showed up, no zombies anywhere. Suddenly, he realized he was starving. He figured it was a good time to grab some food and see how the mom and her kid were holding up. He spotted a soft-shelled turtle at the local market and picked it up. After dropping off supplies for the two, he stuck around and ate dinner with them. She kept her voice low, almost like she was afraid someone might hear. She basically said she got it, nothing comes for free, and he'd already done a lot for her family. She didn't want to push him or make things weird, but her husband wasn't around anymore. Deep down, she was just worried about what would happen to her daughter if anything happened to her. Understood what she was getting at. He set his chopsticks aside, kept his cool, and waited to hear what she wanted from him. She stopped in her tracks, caught off guard by how fast he said yes. She turned red and looked down, barely getting the words out that she wanted to come along with her daughter. Fan just stood there, not really getting what she was trying to say. He figured she wanted to move into his building, so he thought about hitting up the real estate office to help her out. She looked at him totally lost, like she couldn't figure out what planet he was from. It honestly felt like they were on completely different wavelengths. At the same time, up high on the roof of a fancy apartment building on the other side of the city, a middle-aged guy's phone suddenly went off. His whole vibe changed in a second. He was locked in, hoping each ring meant someone was finally coming through for him. A calm voice came through the phone, reaching out to Mr. about the property he had put up for rent with XIN Phone Realty. Someone wanted to know if it was still available to rent. Gang just stopped in his tracks and hung up right away. No way this was a joke. He glanced outside, total chaos. It honestly looked like the end of the world out there. The world fell apart way quicker than anyone expected. The only reason they were still breathing was because the building had serious security. Every day they stared up at the sky, waiting for some rescue choppers, but nobody ever showed up. Gang let out a deep sigh, totally drained, when his phone started buzzing again. He cut the other guy off before he could even start talking. Fan looked at him, totally thrown off, not getting why this dude was freaking out. He just wanted to rent the place, nothing wild. Chin ended the call, obviously mad. Stared at his phone, kinda confused about why this dude was always so mad. Whatever he decided to call back. Over on the other end, Shen totally lost it, veins bulging as he freaked out and demanded to know what wanted. Fan kept his cool. He just wanted to rent the apartment from Mr., not start any drama. Had enough, he was done waiting around. He posted up on the roof of International Tower 3, basically putting out a challenge for anyone who wanted to step up. If someone really wanted what he had, they'd have to show up and face him for real. After locking in the rental, Fan didn't waste any time. He said a quick bye to the mom and her daughter, telling them to chill for a bit while he ran off to handle the lease. She reached out to stop him, but he was already out the door, gone before she could do anything. Somewhere else, a guy walked over to Chin Gang, trying to see what was going on. Chin didn't really give him anything, just shrugged it off and acted like it was no big deal, calling someone an idiot under his breath. The kid grabbed Chin and pulled him off to the side, telling him to leave that guy behind. He wanted Chin to come with him because something important was going down. He dropped his voice so only the boss could hear. He'd already crunched the numbers and their supplies were barely enough for 2 weeks. Wasn't happy about it, his face said it all. He wanted to know what the guy was getting at. The guy let out a sharp breath. He counted 15 people in the group. He thought those 4 older folks were just slowing everyone down. In his head he figured maybe they should just ditch them, but paused. If he made a move like that out in the open, the rest of the group probably wouldn't be cool with it. After all, those elders had been giving out their food to everyone the past few days. The kid flashed a confident smile, totally ready to handle things. He figured that once the older folks were gone, getting rid of the extra guys would be easy. Even the girls who didn't fit the usual beauty standards had to leave too. She nodded, deciding to hang on to the good-looking ones. If the world was ending and nobody knew when things would get back to normal, at least she'd have something decent to look at while waiting it out. Once the rental went through, Fan hopped on his bike and headed for International. Riding along, he just took out a couple of zombies chilling by the road like it was no big deal. People started peeking out from windows and hiding spots, checking if it was safe. A few tried to get someone's attention, hoping for a hand. Some guys looked at him like he was already done for. In their heads, he was just another dude who'd get wrecked sooner or later. After running for what felt like forever, Fan looked over his shoulder and realized the crowd that had been chasing him just disappeared. He paused at the entrance, checking out the complex. This spot was way more upscale than where he used to live. Up on the roof, a bunch of guys were crowded together, working out a plan that was seriously messed up. They were set on grabbing the elder's stuff and then tossing him right off the building. The younger guys kept talking quietly, thinking nobody would notice, but the older crowd saw everything. An old soldier who'd already been through a lot wasn't missing a thing. He tried to calm down the retired army doctor's wife sitting next to him. They both knew they weren't young anymore and stuff was getting hard to find. He figured maybe the younger people looked at them like they were just holding everyone back. But honestly, he got it. Things would move on, and it was up to the younger generation to fix things and bring the country back. Joe, who used to work in the military as an engineer, sat close by and let out a quiet laugh. It was obvious to him that had totally accepted how things were now. Wanted to know if Joe was on the same page. Joe just nodded like he got it. They've always been the ones putting others first, and honestly, there's not much left to prove at this point. It's tough to blame anyone for how things turned out. At the end of the day, staying alive is what really counts. His wife just rolled her eyes. After dealing with tough times for years, she figured a bit more trouble wasn't really going to make a difference. Gang and Bing had already pulled most of the younger crew together. Now they were moving straight toward the four elders, ready for whatever was coming. Bing had a scheme running in his head. He figured he'd take out the older guys first, then get rid of the extra dudes and save for last. After that, he'd have all the gear and girls to himself. Stepped up and faced everyone. He could tell what was on their minds and made it clear they weren't there to steal anyone's stuff, and nobody needed to stress about getting thrown off the roof. Certain things you do just stick with you and they don't really go away. The older guys knew this, so they just headed home, ready to deal with whatever was about to happen. The guys weren't backing down. They knew they couldn't just let those people stay. If they went downstairs and messed with the security door, every zombie nearby would show up. They figured the only way was to toss them off the roof. The crowd froze for a second when someone knocked on the rooftop gate. Someone outside started calling out, asking if Mr. was around. The guy said he was the one who called earlier, wanting to see if he could rent the apartment. Shin pretty much lost it, as if he just spotted something out of a nightmare. Everything felt straight out of an end-of-the-world movie. He couldn't figure out why anyone would be talking about renting right now, or even who this random person was supposed to be. He was still talking when the metal gate, which was like 3 centimeters thick, suddenly burst open with a loud crash. Fan's strength stat was up to 40 now. He didn't even realize it, but when he went to open the door, he pushed a little too hard and ended up cracking it. Got close to and quietly laid out what they should do. The idea was simple: tell the guy the place is just rented, keep an eye on him as he heads downstairs, and then shove the 4 older folks to start some chaos. The mess would attract zombies, making the dude bolt, and that way they'd all have a better shot at staying safe. Shin laughed to himself. That plan would actually work. The kid knew what he was doing, and he wasn't afraid to get a little dirty. He brushed him off like it was nothing, basically handing over the spot and telling him to get moving. Fan was honestly surprised at how simple that was. He just pulled out a stack of cash from his pocket like it was nothing. Shin stared, kind of confused, wondering if this guy was actually serious. Shin just waved him off, telling him to chill and hang out as long as he wanted, then sent him on his way. Fan was saying bye when he saw a few older folks getting ready to head out from the rooftop. He heard someone call out and turned around, surprised that the guy actually knew his name. Joe didn't expect anyone to recognize him like that. Fan was hyped as he shook Joe's hand, recognizing him right away from TV. He remembered when other countries tried to freeze out their weapons tech, but Joe was the guy who led the squad that made it happen anyway. In Fan's eyes, Joe was basically a legend. Joe just laughed it off, acting like it was no big deal and that it all happened ages ago. Fan glanced at the group, checking if anyone was about to bounce off the roof. He knew things were getting wild outside and didn't want anyone running into trouble. Joe just shook his head, kind of calm. He made up his mind they were staying put. Stuff was running low and he thought the younger crew needed it way more. He figured he and the older folks had already lived long enough, so there was no point taking up whatever was left. Fan's expression turned serious, and his thoughts started racing with scenes of old people getting ignored and treated badly, just left on their own. Gang actually pulled back a bit when he saw the look in his eyes. Anyone could tell this dude wasn't someone to mess with. Fan let out a slow breath, trying to keep it together. He wanted to bring them back to his place, thinking it'd be safer and he could look out for them. But the elders just shook their heads, giving him a gentle thank you. They told him he'd already done plenty just by looking out for them. Wasn't backing down. He kept telling himself he was tough enough for this. He wanted her to stick with him, even going so far as to offer to help her find a place nearby. The elders glanced at each other, not really sure what to say. Joe tried to play it cool, laughing it off even though he felt weird inside. Everyone could tell this guy was just built different. Fan grabbed Joe's hand and didn't wait around. He wanted her to trust him, so he just led her forward without looking back. Shen started to step in and stop the elders, but Bing grabbed him and kept him from moving. Leaned in and told the boss to let the others leave first. Once they made it downstairs, he planned to draw the zombies' attention. His idea was to make sure both the old guy and the boss would get caught by the zombies at the same time. Back in the day, these old guys were ready to risk everything for their country. Now that they're older, the younger crowd has basically kicked them out of the safe spots. The guys grabbed all the elders' stuff for themselves, throwing down flower pots and causing a ton of noise underneath. They wanted to lure in the undead from around and have them take out the elders for them. Nobody from the older crowd saw that level of coldness coming from the younger guys. Guys who used to have each other's backs in the middle of chaos never thought they'd get stabbed in the back like this. Something was off, and the only one who noticed was Joe, a retired military engineer. He frowned, checking out the scene. There were zombie bodies everywhere, just stacked up all over the place. He started wondering if someone had come up with a new way to take them out. Just brushed it off, not buying that anything like that could be made this quick. He wrapped things up, and suddenly everyone's attention was on Fan. Fan fidgeted, not really sure where to look. He knew he was stuck. Getting to the roof was the only way out, and taking them down was the only shot he had. The elders couldn't believe what they were seeing. They weren't even looking at the bodies. What really had them frozen was how he took down that many zombies by himself. Up on the roof, the crew had already tossed every flower pot they could get their hands on. Still, not even one zombie rolled up. Frowned and shoved past a guy to check out what was happening. He wanted to get a clear look at the situation. He looked down and instantly broke out in a cold sweat. All over the place, zombie bodies were just lying there, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Out of nowhere, a loud scream cut through the air, pushed the guy who was hanging over the edge, sending him right off. Everyone else just stood there, completely stuck, not even sure how to react. Meanwhile, fixed his tie like nothing happened, almost daring everyone to say something. He figured if noise wasn't pulling them in, then blood would do the trick since its scent goes way further. Shin couldn't hold it in. He started cracking up, hands smacking together. He was hyped at how clever that move was, and everyone else jumped in, grins all over their faces, looking like they were up to something. The guy slammed into the pavement, his body splitting open as blood shot out, covering the street in red. Zombies in the distance picked up on the smell of fresh blood and just rushed in like a pack of wild beasts, totally locked in on that spot. Stood on the rooftop cracking up. He nodded at, totally impressed. He could already picture those guys freaking out and running for it, and honestly he was looking forward to the chaos. Joe's wife used to be a teacher, but right now she totally lost her cool. She had no idea what to do and just broke down crying. Fan out of nowhere wanted to know if had a car. Looked a bit confused for a second, then remembered his ride was just chilling in the garage. He couldn't figure out why Fan was asking. Fan glanced back with a grin. He knew there was no way his bike could handle that many riders. He told him to head over to the spot he mentioned earlier, saying he had something to handle. Without waiting around, he took off running straight for the gate. And Joe yelled for him to run. They wanted him to get out, saying they'd handle things themselves. If anyone was gonna go down, they figured it should be them, not someone his age. Their wives yanked them back, basically telling them to chill with all the hero stuff. That kid clearly wasn't just some normal dude. Honestly, the thing they could do was just let him handle it and not get in his way. While all that was going on, Fan made it to the complex gate. He just shook his head, thinking how he'd already warned everyone zombies that skip leg day can't keep up for long. He'd been standing there for what felt like ages, waiting for the rest to finally show up. Up on the roof, looked annoyed. It was strange, the crowd still hadn't busted in. He wondered why the guy was even going over there. Meanwhile, Bing just grinned, thinking the dude must be totally freaked out. A few seconds later, started laughing again. He couldn't believe it. Turns out his friend was actually right. That guy really did go and open the gate, no hesitation. But now, noticed the dude was sprinting away all over again, and he couldn't help but wonder what was up with that. Just shrugged like it was obvious. Instincts always win, even if someone's not the nodded, thinking actually had a decent point. Smile just stopped like he realized something was off. Saw it too, some guy was sprinting straight at them. Both of them froze, faces going white. He was straight up bringing the zombies their way. They couldn't help but yell. Down on the ground, a wave of undead packed together, chasing after Fan as he ran straight into the apartment building. A few seconds later, Fan showed up on the roof again. Everyone below started freaking out, yelling up at him, totally confused about what he was up to. Fan stayed low behind the door, totally chill. He knew everyone was hoping the zombies would show up, so he figured he'd just help out a bit. No need to thank him. A few seconds passed, and suddenly a bunch of zombies climbed up onto the rooftop. Every single one of them zoned in on their next target, not missing a beat. Just went pale. In his head, he was roasting the guy hard, totally losing it. Once the four elders started living in Lin Fan's neighborhood, everyone started hanging out together and got pretty close in no time. They'd hang out with Fan and Li Mei and her mom a lot, grabbing easy meals together. That little group honestly made the whole apartment building feel way less dead. That afternoon caught Fan watching her. She got a little anxious and reached up to her cheek, wondering if there was something stuck there. Fan waited for a bit, then brought up the school bag. just stared totally lost like she had no clue what he was talking about. School bag, that idea wasn't even on her mind. Fan looked at Grandma Yang and nodded toward her. With everything falling apart outside, he knew the kid couldn't really help much yet. What made sense was to focus on learning instead. Grandma Yang had taught classes before, so she actually knew her stuff. Fan figured he'd grab the kid's books and backpack later so he could keep up with his studies. Made a face, just not feeling it. With everything falling apart around him, he couldn't help but wonder if studying even mattered right now. Paused for a second, then nodded. He knew his uncle was right. At this point, the only move left was to focus on learning. Fan got up, grinning. He told the group to start eating while he took out the trash and went to pick up's bag. Let out a big sigh, just straight up drained. He couldn't help but wonder what he'd done to end up in this mess with his uncle. But everything felt different now. The Sunshine Complex, which used to be dead quiet, suddenly had life again. 6 new survivors had moved in, bringing a new kind of energy to the place. That night, 2 zombies shuffled over to a 2-story car repair shop just down the road. A split second later, 2 arrows slammed right into their heads, dropping them on the spot. He used to mess around with archery for fun, but now he was out here surviving, taking out zombies one by one as he moved through the empty streets. But when he looked at the shop, he knew going in wasn't worth it. Making too much noise would just bring a whole swarm down on him. He had company, 1 woman and 2 other guys stuck with him. Their stash of food would barely stretch a week, but at least the tap water still worked. Seemed like somebody was still out there keeping the water plant online. Out of nowhere, this loud explosion hit outside and the archer just froze. Dude's face went totally pale. Fire suddenly shot out of a building close by, and every zombie in the area instantly zoned in on it. The woman with short hair stormed over to the window, totally fired up. She needed to know who was out there making all that noise. Outside, 1 woman sprinted down the street, panic all over her face while the crowd of monsters chased right behind her. She looked desperate, trying to get away as fast as she could, but the horde just kept getting closer. Out of nowhere, a huge hand slammed down and crushed her, leaving her lying in a pool of blood. This massive mutant zombie, almost 4 meters tall, just stood there, dark mist swirling around its body. It looked straight up monstrous, like nothing you'd want to mess with. Her lips started shaking. She realized, yeah, that zombie just leveled up. Right then, he heard the rough noise of some trash bins getting dragged along the street from a nearby alley. She stopped dead, thinking another massive zombie was about to show up. Instead, Fan showed up, just rolling in with a trash bin. He casually plowed through the crowd and even took out that mutant, barely breaking a sweat. He'd already maxed out his strength, his stamina and speed straight up not normal. He walked through the alley without even looking at the giant lying on the ground. Up on the 2nd floor of the repair shop, a woman with short hair was laying low. As soon as she spotted Lin Fan, she realized who he was. She kept it to herself, but inside she couldn't believe it was actually him. The guys were shook, realizing they just dodged something serious. They couldn't believe their eyes. Someone was actually pushing a trash bin around. The boss caught on quick. Whoever that was had pulled the zombies away. There was a real shot they'd make it out. The story jumped back to that supermarket under Li Mei's old place. Fan left the trash bin by the front gate, then went upstairs to pick up his backpack and books. Some thugs were hiding upstairs in the supermarket, watching what was going on below. They called out to see what was up and tried to figure out what this guy was up to. Fan looked up totally chill. He noticed someone there and just kept it casual. He was holding some trash since the main bin was packed, so he was on the hunt for somewhere else to toss it. While he was at it, he figured he'd grab a few things too. He barely got a word out before they started clowning him. They couldn't believe he was talking about trash like it was some real skill. In their heads, only during the end of the world would someone act like being good at dealing with garbage was a flex. Fan just thought dumping trash was part of the routine, even with the world falling apart. For him, stuff like that didn't change, life kept moving. If someone needed a hand, they just had to ask. The bald guy just shot a look, clearly judging hard. He acted like life up there was easy for him and his crew, and couldn't believe someone would actually offer help. He almost dared the other person to make a move, threatening to call everyone over just for some entertainment, like he wanted to turn the whole thing into a game. Fan kept it moving. He gave a quick wave, said bye, and just dipped without hanging around. The way he dipped out so fast just made the thugs even meaner. They started scheming to drag the zombies over just to mess with people and watch them get chased around. They thought hanging out on the 2nd floor meant they were totally safe, since zombies can't exactly jump or anything. Right then, the 4 thugs totally lost it, yelling so loud their voices bounced off the buildings. They kept shouting for a while, but no zombies popped up underneath. He couldn't believe it. He and his crew were the zombies now. There was no shot this spot was actually clear. There's just no way everybody disappeared like that. Across the street, Fan was chilling behind the gate of another building, checking things out. He stayed cool, knowing the guy would show up soon. Just like that, he was gone. The thugs grumbled under their breath, clearly annoyed. Buzzkill just couldn't even get the zombies to take out that guy. Out of nowhere, the ground started shaking, making little rocks jump all over the place. Big footsteps boom close by. He tenses up, something definitely headed his way. He can't figure out what's making that noise, but it's got him on edge. They were almost done when this huge, creepy face suddenly showed up at the second floor window. The giant zombie moved fast, ripping through 3 of the thugs like it was nothing. Fan had already made his way to the bookstore downstairs, right across in the building opposite. He started heading up the stairs when he caught this quiet baby cry coming from somewhere nearby. He followed the noise and ended up at the corner landing. He saw a woman just hanging there, not moving at all. Even though her baby was still here, she decided to check out for good. She let go of the only shot her kid had to make it. The baby's crying kept going but started to get quieter, almost like he was about to go silent. Fan carefully picked up the baby from the woman who wasn't moving anymore. His hands were steady and warm, doing his best to settle down the baby's soft, tired cries. He noticed something tucked inside the baby's blanket. It was a tiny diary. He stared at the note. It said nobody was coming and there was no food left. His energy was fading fast, and deep down he knew he didn't have much time left. He's seen people come back as zombies before, and the thought of hurting his own kid is the last thing he wants. While his mind's still his own, he knows he's gotta handle things even if it's tough. He's scared he might bite her, so he takes things into his own hands, literally. He shatters his own teeth and tapes up his mouth, making sure that even if he turns into a zombie, there's no way he can hurt her. He called his kid Ming Ming. If someone ever stumbled across this, he just wanted her to get a shot at life. And if that couldn't happen, at least don't leave her out there alone. The idea of her getting hurt by something out there was the one thing he really couldn't handle. Let out a quiet sigh. He promised himself he'd do whatever it takes to keep the kids safe. Right as he started talking, a basketball suddenly rolled up and stopped right by his shoes. A second later, a zombie that weirdly looked just like jumped right at him. This zombie moved way quicker than any he'd seen before. Fan pulled out totally confused. He couldn't figure out how a monster like that was hanging around and yet the baby was still okay. That's when it clicked for him. This thing had just been chilling there, using the baby as bait, ready to go after anyone who actually stopped to help. Fan didn't hesitate. He just raised and sliced that evolved speed zombie right down the middle. Right after, the system popped up, letting him know he scored 3 more attribute points. This one stood out. You could tell it actually had something going on upstairs. All the other zombies he'd run into were just mindless, but this one wasn't like the rest. Out of what was left of the creature, a dimly glowing red crystal popped out. Fan looked around, kinda confused. He figured that zombie must have been some bookworm, probably grinding away in the bookstore. He couldn't help but think, wow, guess people weren't kidding when they said knowledge is power. He figured he might as well pick up some workbooks and exam papers for while he was there. She definitely seemed like someone who takes studying seriously. He knew she'd probably get hyped when she saw them. Somewhere way underground, hidden under a desert way off in the distance, a professor just stood there, eyes wide, locked onto this sealed red crystal. He couldn't believe someone was saying it actually came out of a zombie's skull. A female officer stood at attention, giving a quick salute. She explained that the creature they found was seriously weird, so the team ended up taking it apart. Inside its brain, they discovered a crystal. The professor leaned in, wanting to hear every detail. Xiangnan took the first shot. She used a sniper and landed a clean headshot, no hesitation. The zombie just kept going. Instead of dropping, it suddenly took off, sprinting straight at the base like it was on a mission. He didn't let up, just kept pulling the trigger. Every shot landed right in the head, one after another. The thing only went down when there was basically nothing left of its skull. Up until now, every zombie they ran into dropped with a quick hit to the head. But this new one, not even big guns could take it out. Nobody could figure out what was up with it. The professor's face dropped. He couldn't get his head around it. The zombies were leveling up, but not in any way he expected. Now, even a straight-up headshot wasn't enough to take them down. It was almost like they were turning into something way worse, like straight-up demons. Right now, just 2 bases in China are still holding it down, Dragon Palace and Galaxy Base. He let out a sigh, knowing things were looking rough. With the undead getting stronger every day, he couldn't help but wonder if there was even a real shot at saving the rest of the world. The female officer paused, her cheeks turning a little red. She had a plan, nothing fancy, just something she remembered from all those zombie stories she used to read. He remembered hearing about worlds where zombies had these brain crystals that made people stronger if they took them out. If you took down a zombie, you could grab the crystal and basically power up, sometimes even turning superhuman. He started thinking that maybe this crystal he found worked the same way. The professor looked totally clueless. He'd never picked up a novel before, so when someone mentioned zombie stories, he just stared like he had no idea what was going on. Fan stepped out of the bookstore holding the baby he'd just saved. He kept his cool, not rushing or stressing, just moving steady with the kid in his arms. He was just walking down the street, not really thinking about much, when a woman up in one of the windows noticed him. Used to be all over the internet for her baking videos, always showing up in those fancy Lolita dresses. She was the go-to cake influencer back then. Out of nowhere, Fan turned his head and looked straight at her window. Jumped a little, instantly covering her mouth and dropping down under the ledge. Her heart was racing. He just glanced over here. Did he catch her hiding, or was she still in the clear? Fan caught a quick shadow moving past the glass. He started wondering if someone else was still out there. Before he could even process what just happened, a car pulled up out of nowhere and slammed the brakes right in front of the police station next door. Min checked around to make sure no zombies were lurking. Once the coast was clear, he got out of the car and spotted some thugs, guys from the gang, hanging around. Fan just tossed them a quick wave, not really making a big deal out of it. Even though they weren't close, he could still catch that strong smell of blood hanging around them. The dude with the just stopped in his tracks. No way, he couldn't believe someone else was actually still out here. The dude with the permed hair leaned in close, kind of hinting if they should just get rid of him. But the guy rocking a bun wasn't having it. He shook his head, basically saying it'd make a scene. They all knew they were only there because the boss called the shots. The chubby guy just nodded along, knowing if they didn't find what the boss wanted, they'd be in serious trouble. While sitting in the car, the guy with the bald head stared at Fan with zero emotion. He noticed Fan wasn't trying to escape. In his head, he figured as soon as the boys got those guns, he'd just strap Fan to the back of the car and let the zombies handle the rest. Right as he was about to finish thinking, Fan popped up outside the window, grinning in a way that just felt off. Fan stared straight at him, totally steady but not holding back. He wanted to know what these guys were up to out here. The bald guy almost lost it. Just a second ago, he was sure that dude was chilling across the street. Now, things just got weird. Right then, the 4 guys who'd gone into the station came back out, all holding some stolen guns. They noticed he was still hanging around and clearly weren't happy about it, starting to question what he and his friend were even doing there. The bald guy leaned in, kind of mumbling, trying to find out if anyone managed to grab the boss's stuff or not. The guy with the just laughed like he already knew the answer. This is exactly why they showed up. With a score like that, they'd be good for a long time. Fan rocked that perm like it was nothing. Dude had guts, just out there wandering around by himself. People looked at him and wondered how he was even still in one piece. Fan kept his cool and just handled things his way. When zombies showed up, he'd try to talk it out first, but if that didn't work, he'd take care of business. One hit and the problem was over. The guy with the perm just stared, not sure if this dude was actually serious. He was honestly confused, trying to figure out what this dude was even talking about. The dude with the buzz cut just lost it. He whipped out a gun and pointed it right at Fan, acting like whatever he had was some kind of treasure. Lynn froze for a second, her hand waving in front of her face like she was trying to cool off. She couldn't help but tense up when she realized what was going on. These 4 actually tried to break into the police station to swipe some guns. The dude with the just looked at him with that smug face. He acted like none of this was a big deal. It's the end of the world, so stealing was just part of the game for him. He'd done stuff most people wouldn't even believe. He didn't even get to finish what he was saying. Suddenly, this flash of light came out of nowhere, and his arm was just gone, sliced clean off before he could even react. Fan just gave a quick apology, looking like he almost forgot he was talking to a real person and not some zombie he needed to take down. He seemed so used to fighting off zombies that for a second he acted like the other guy wasn't even human. Everyone froze when it happened, and the dude with the man bun scrambled to grab his gun. Right as he was about to fire, jumped in and cut him clean in half with just one swing. The last 2 guys just stood there, totally frozen. He was moving so quick it was hard to tell if he was even real. Inside the car, the bald guy started yelling at them, calling them out for being way too loud. He was stressing hard, saying the zombies were about to show up and they needed to get in the car ASAP. Just like that, wild screams bounced off every building around them. Zombies started swarming the car, moving fast and wild like they were starving. The bald guy didn't waste a second. He stomped on the gas and tore out of there, not even checking he knew the kid was done for and the boss wouldn't let it slide. Both guys left behind started yelling up at him, calling him out and telling him not to ditch them while they were still stuck down there. Fan slid his sword back into its sheath and let out a deep breath. Even these wild zombies had his back when it came to standing up for what's right. They were out here handling business, doing their part. Both guys just stared each other down, frozen and way too scared to say anything. Zombies showing up to do the right thing. Nah man, they pulled up because someone went on a killing spree. Fan crouched down, then just hopped up onto a second-floor balcony like it was nothing. With his stats right now, parkour felt way too easy. The guys just stood there, frozen, as he walked away. Nobody on the planet could ever pull off a jump like that. Seconds later, the zombies swarmed in, rolling over them like a tidal wave that wouldn't stop. The screams barely lasted before the noise of flesh getting ripped apart took over. Who everyone knows for his cake videos noticed the mess going down outside. There were zombies everywhere, like way too many to count. He started wondering if that dude he saw wandering around earlier was the reason they all showed up. Seriously, what was that guy even trying to do? No way anyone survives out there. It's basically game over for him. She didn't even get to finish thinking before Fan popped up out of nowhere, his face right outside her window. She hit the floor shaking. Hold up, she's on the second floor, so how is his face right outside the window? Fan stood on the AC unit outside, thinking she was probably still freaked out from everything going down. The whole apocalypse thing clearly had her scared. He figured she just needed some time to get used to it all. He promised himself to stop by her window every day, planning to give her a smile and show he was chill. He just wanted her to see he was actually a good guy, not someone to worry about. At the same time, Sue picked up a fruit knife. He suddenly noticed someone watching him, and for a second he froze, not sure what to do next. He realized running wasn't an option. If this guy spotted him, every other survivor would know in seconds. No way was he letting them catch him. If it came down to it and he couldn't take the guy in a fight, he'd rather take himself out. There was no chance he was letting himself get caught just to be messed with. Right then, there was this massive, fancy mansion sitting up on the hill. The bald thug rushed in, looking freaked out. It was clear something serious was up, and he was about to let the boss know they had a problem. A guy with a scar on his face sat there, cigar in hand, looking annoyed. He noticed something was off. 5 people left, but only this one guy made it back. The bald guy really hyped up his story. He told the boss that when they got to the police station, some other crew was lurking in the dark. As soon as they grabbed the guns, those guys basically set the zombies loose on them. The bald guy started freaking out, stumbling over his words. He told his crew to pile into the car, but zombies were everywhere and the street was totally jammed. With no way out, he just floored it and bilayed. Deep down, he was losing it, thinking there was no way the boss could find out it was only one dude causing this mess. As soon as he spotted that massive group of zombies, he dipped out, leaving everyone behind. He shot a quick look at his boss, not sure what was about to go down. The silence was killing him. His mind started racing. Was he about to get wrecked? The guy could literally break bricks with his hands. One time he even slapped a stone and it split. Finally looked up and pushed his burning cigar right into the bald guy's forehead. He seriously wondered why the dude didn't just end up dead out there. The bald guy was shaking, holding back a scream by biting his tongue hard. He knew if he made any noise, the boss would totally snap and that'd be it for him. When the cigar finally went out, he managed a weak smile. Deep down, all he really wanted was to keep driving for the boss, nothing more to it. Let out a quick snort, clearly irritated but not pushed over the edge. He casually tossed his cigar aside, basically telling the guy to scram. Leaned back, his eyes turning serious. He'd already decided the whole villa complex would be his spot, planning to take over little by little. But now it was clear another crew and were thinking the same thing, even bold enough to grab guns straight from a police station. He knew he'd have to move before they did. When the sun came up the next day, the whole neighborhood was lit up. Mrs. Sue was already outside, down in the dirt, putting in the seeds Fan had brought home. Mr. Joe and Mr. started stacking up wooden planks across the gates and exits, locking things down tight so no zombies could get through. Meanwhile, Grandma Yang was sitting with Little, helping her out with math, physics, and chemistry. She was super patient, making sure got everything step by step. Wrapped up her homework and thought she was done, but then she noticed a couple more textbooks had just appeared on the table. Fan had this proud look on his face, totally sure of himself. He'd been paying attention and noticed how hard the kid worked. Last night he grabbed some stuff just for him, ready to hand it over like it was no big deal. His eyes were full of tears, barely holding it together. It looked like he could break down any second. Right as she was about to say something, the baby in Fan's arms just started bawling super loud. Lime's eyes went wide. He definitely wasn't expecting that. Fan kind of froze, not sure what to say next. Grandma, who used to patch people up in the army, was around, so they figured she should check the kid out first. When the babies started crying, Grandma Sue dropped whatever she was doing outside and came running. She wanted them brought over to her right away. After she checked, she finally let out a breath, relieved. It was lucky he showed up when he did. Any later and she probably wouldn't have made it. She's still not safe. Her body's super weak and the rash on her backside is infected now. She's got a bunch of little cuts too. She'll definitely need someone to really look out for her. Lynn tried to remember the girl's name, but all her mom's old diary said was that the baby was called Ming Ming. Sue brought up the idea of giving Ming Ming his last name, so her name would be Ming Ming. Grandma seemed cool with it, but Fan wasn't having it. He just wanted her to be known as Ming Ming. He figured when she's older, he'd let her know all about her mom. Lime saw Fan having a tough time holding the baby, so he stepped in to help out. He figured Fan already had a lot going on and could use a break. Fan flashed a thankful grin. He figured they could tag team the work. His friend would cover the daytime and he'd lock in for the night shift. Right after they finally got the whole baby thing under control, Grandpa Joe and Grandpa started yelling from the gate, their voices shaky. They called Fan over, sounding stressed. Out on the street, a bunch of zombies were showing up and things were about to get real. Fan frowned, confused. He could have sworn he lost that guy way earlier when heading back. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. It looked like the zombies were actually getting smarter now. Fan and the two elders noticed zombies coming their way, all following behind this random little delivery truck up front. The driver kept tapping the horn, cruising along without speeding up or slowing down. Grandpa Joe watched the monitors and figured the driver was probably trying to distract the zombies, giving everyone else a shot at grabbing some supplies. Fan leaned in, checking out the scene through a crack in the wall. he spotted it right away. Three guys, each holding a steel rod and a shield, took off running toward the shops while the crowd of monsters was busy doing their own thing. Suddenly, Grandpa Joe's face dropped. He noticed the truck had just flipped around. The scavengers just stopped in their tracks when that same truck rolled up again. That's when they finally caught on. The driver was actually turning the zombies right back toward them on purpose. Sitting in the back of the cab, the guy sparked up a cigarette. His thoughts went straight to the day everything basically fell apart. He ran out of food, so he had to step outside, even though it wasn't safe. He didn't really know what he was doing, so a huge group noticed him right away. Things were looking bad, but out of nowhere, a truck pulled up next to him. Two guys suddenly popped out, one holding a shield, the other swinging a steel pipe. They started clearing out the zombies fast, barely breaking a sweat. He really wanted to tag along with them, but they shot him down. When he brought up his wife and kid waiting for him back home and asked if they had any food to spare. Out of nowhere, they smiled and told him to get his family together. They were about to help them get out and stay safe. He really believed these were solid people. When they spotted his wife, their whole vibe switched up. They tied him up so he couldn't do anything and made him watch while they hurt her right there. During her last fight, his wife managed to get away and tried to defend herself, but she got tossed off the third floor. She didn't make it. The guy was ready to throw down and fight until the end, but everything changed when they grabbed his 8-year-old daughter. If he tried anything, they made it clear his kid would get hurt, maybe even killed. He'd been waiting forever to finally take these guys down. He stomped on the gas, dead set on making sure those monsters never made it back. The truck tore right through the store, slamming into the three guys inside while fire and smoke shot up everywhere. Fans spotted what was going on outside and didn't even think twice. He pushed open the community gate, not paying any attention to the elder who tried to hold him back, and just sprinted out. At the same time, the guy was stuck in the driver's seat, trapped by the airbag that had popped out. Zombies started crawling all over the truck, closing in on him from every side. Fan stood his ground and called out the horde, telling them to quit messing around at Sunshine Complex. He let them know there were older folks, moms, and even a baby inside, so they needed to chill and not start any chaos. The zombies all stopped and stared at him, looking kinda lost for a second. A few seconds passed, then out of nowhere, they fired themselves up and rushed straight at him again. Fan grabbed and just started mowing down zombies. In a couple swings, he dropped over 10 of them like it was nothing. The two old guys glued to the monitors started sweating bullets. Watching go off like that, they were actually starting to think he might be some kind of super soldier. With power like his, it felt like City could be where everything gets rebuilt, could be the one to kick it all off. After it was over, Sue, who used to be a military doctor, took a look at the guy's injuries. Turned out he just had some bruises from getting hit, nothing too serious. He was fine thanks to the airbag, which took most of the hit. The blood was only from his nose, nothing too serious. Fan stared out at the street, smoke everywhere. He knew he was the reason it looked like that, so cleaning it up was all on him. The three old guys watched him, kind of sensing something wasn't right, but they couldn't really say anything back to him. The guy snapped awake, coughing hard, and started looking around, trying to figure out if he somehow ended up in heaven. Just shook his head. This was Sunshine Complex, their spot, their home. Since the guy was finally up, told him to go outside and clean the street later. Those bodies weren't going anywhere, and if no one handled it soon, things would get nasty. Pushed himself up, clearly hurting, and told them who he was, just some guy who used to fix networks for a living. He was grateful to be alive, but there was no way he could relax yet. His daughter was still stuck at the enemy base, and all he could think about was getting her out. Fan looked at him, thinking this dude just made a mess and tried to dip, not even planning to clean up the street. Fan suddenly switched things up, catching off guard. He told her to just handle cleaning the street and send him the location. Fan would deal with the errand himself and get her daughter back, promising it wouldn't cost much. Fan didn't even think twice. He was down to bring the 8-year-old girl back home, all for a quick 100 yuan delivery fee. While they were heading down the street, noticed that same guy pop up again. He was back, showing up out of nowhere. He was carrying a young girl who couldn't have been older than 8 or 9. Fan glanced up without really thinking about it, and spotted the woman ducked behind the counter inside the cake shop. He paused, then gave Sue a chill wave, just saying hey in his own way. Started sweating instantly. That dude just looked straight at him and flashed this weird, creepy grin. She rushed over, yanked the curtains closed, and dropped down out of sight. He managed to dodge the beast, but it snatched up a little girl instead. He couldn't stop thinking about what she'd have to go through now. The whole apocalypse thing just felt messed up, like, why do creeps like that get away with everything? Fan rubbed his head, thinking the person in the cake shop was acting way off. He figured the guy was probably messed up from everything that went down since the world ended. He decided it wasn't worth it. He told Ting Ting to steer clear of people like that. Survivors dealing with mental stuff could get dangerous. From now on, he wanted Ting Ting to keep some distance. At the same time, an off-road truck sped past, and right behind it was a huge pack of zombies giving chase. Out of nowhere, the guy with the hat pointed straight ahead, looking like he'd just seen something wild. He couldn't help but shout out, totally caught off guard. The team leader suddenly got stiff, thinking something big just went down. The guy with the hat just nodded toward the intersection. That same dude from before, the one who somehow made it through all this, was still hanging around, acting like the whole street was his. Now he's out here carrying a little kid, too. Dude seriously doesn't care what anyone thinks. The leader looked back and realized there were way too many zombies chasing them. If those things caught a glimpse of him and the kid, it would be game over for both of them. She told old Mao, the driver, to lay on the horn and get the zombies' attention away from them. Right before she could finish, that weird toy music kicked in from up ahead, making everyone in the car just stop dead in their tracks. Fan and Ting were messing around with one of those cactus toys that dances and sings. It was the kind everyone sees online, shaking and talking nonstop. The zombies tucked away in the corners just stopped moving when they heard that noise. They rushed at it like it was the only thing that mattered, totally locked in. Everyone in the car just froze. No way, the leader really pulled up and got it done before they could. He even managed to draw the zombies off himself. The leader just froze, his brain totally shut off. He knew they were in deep trouble. Back at the desert base, things kept moving. The researchers wrapped up checking out the crystal core they pulled from a zombie's brain. Whatever was inside that thing was something science had never seen before. The energy stayed locked in, not moving around at all. The crystal had this clear layer on the outside, kind of like a shell. It looked a bit like skin, but you could tell it was way stronger. The professor zoned out for a minute, thinking hard. Their lab had some of the best gear around since hardly any other research spots made it this far. But even with all that tech, they still had no clue why zombies had those weird crystals in their heads. He told the researcher to hit up both the Dragon Palace base and Galaxy base, just to check where they were at with everything. The researcher just sighed, clearly let down. Dragon Palace base and Galaxy base had never actually found a crystal in a zombie's head, not even once. All they could do was guess that zombies had them. The professor didn't have much choice but to go with it. When the old professor heard about it, his worry just got worse. Now he knew zombies could actually level up, and that was seriously bad for anyone still alive. If nobody figured out a way to stop them fast, humans could be wiped out for real. Up on the rooftop of an apartment building in city, things were about to get interesting. He stood there holding a zombie crystal, totally hyped that it was actually real, just like he'd read about before. To get his hands on it, he'd played his own squad and sent 7 of them straight into danger without looking back. He just had to grab the crystal, power up, and start taking out more zombies. Every time he leveled up, he felt even more unstoppable, like nothing could hold him back in this messed up world. Once he was on top, there wouldn't be anything out of reach. For him, this was where everything started. His grind was officially on. His mind started racing with wild ideas, and without thinking twice, he just downed the crystal in one go. He wanted this power to change everything about him, to turn him into someone unstoppable. With strength nobody else had, he was ready to run things when the world fell apart, no days off. He pictured himself at the top, living wild, surrounded by a new girl every single day. But after a few seconds, realized nothing was happening to him at all. He stared at the crystal, totally confused. Things were supposed to go differently. This wasn't what he'd read about online or in those stories. The whole situation just felt off, and now he was starting to wonder if the crystal did anything at all. Out of nowhere, his stomach started hurting bad, like someone just punched him hard. Right then, he figured the crystal was finally kicking in. He grabbed his stomach and rolled around on the floor, grinning like he just won something big. All he could think about was getting stronger. He was locked in on that goal. He held on for as long as he could, but eventually he just couldn't take it and ended up coughing up blood. That's when finally caught on that things were way off, his face going pale as real fear started to show. Thick blood covered the ground, full of bits of flesh and broken up organs that looked like they got wrecked and eaten away. Somewhere else, Fan walked through a bunch of different neighborhoods with this little girl, making sure she got back safe to her dad. He still had zombie blood all over his clothes. Old Master wasted no time and let know just how fast gets things done. He told to stop waiting around and pay the guy his money. He just didn't get why anyone would bother paying cash when the world was basically falling apart. Still, he went ahead and handed over 100 yuan, just doing what he was told. His fans just laughed it off. For them this was normal. He gets paid, he does the job, end of story, no thanks needed. He just stood there not moving at all. At first he thought everyone was just messing with him, but then Fan actually took the cash, and Old Master had already set aside 100 yuan like he knew this was gonna happen. He got real close to Old Master, and quietly told him that Fan wasn't exactly all there upstairs. Old Master wasn't having it. He called him out, wondering why he was acting weird about paying up. Even with the world falling apart, the Sunshine community always stuck to their routine. Paying for stuff kept things chill and stopped everything from going off the rails. That's how they kept some hope for what comes next. At first, Old Master Joe and the others figured just didn't have it all together. But now, things have totally changed. The way C's stuff is next level, only people who really get it can keep up. Realized his brain just couldn't keep up. The way those two old guys talked totally lost him. Still, there was something about it that felt deep, like they were onto something big. Right then the bell tower over on Rhodes started going off, blasting out the sound for noon. Grandma Sue glanced at the clock, straight up noon. She figured someone had probably fixed it on purpose, trying to draw the zombies out so people had a shot at grabbing what they needed. Old Master Joe thought whoever pulled that off had to be a real one. Even when stuff gets wild, moments like that remind him there's still some hope out there. As the older folks kept chatting, zombies pulled in by the bell were already moving fast toward the clock tower. The crew fixing up the tower noticed a huge crowd starting to form. They geared up to head out and grab whatever supplies they could find nearby. The woman in charge didn't waste any time. She told everyone to move quick. There were only 2 minutes on the clock. Everyone started grabbing whatever they could get their hands on. Right then, the ground started shaking hard out of nowhere. The guy in the hat suddenly freaked out and called over to the boss lady, letting her know something was definitely off. He could tell right away that things weren't normal. Right when the zombie swarm was at its worst, this huge zombie showed up, way bigger than the rest. The giant zombie just swung its arm like it was nothing, smashing through everything in its way and clearing a path with pure muscle. The creature jumped way up and came down right on top of the bell tower. The creature let out a loud roar and just wrecked the bell, shattering it all over the place. Everyone just stopped in their tracks. No way some of these zombies actually got smart now. She started thinking hard, unsure if people had any real shot at keeping their world going. Over in Sunshine Community, the old guys realized the bell cut off before it hit 12. They figured something was up. Old Master looked over at Fan. He knew the apocalypse was rough no matter where you went, but deep down he believed there was still hope out there. Someone had to step up, bring that hope to the surface, and show others it was real. It always took one person to make hope feel close enough for everyone else to notice. People always say that when you've got real power, you've got to step up. It's not just about doing your own thing. If everyone ducks out, society's honestly doomed. When someone's on their own, they just can't handle it all. Nobody can solo everything. That's where a leader steps up, someone who brings everyone together, keeps the squad motivated, and turns all those separate efforts into something way stronger. Fan just stood there, totally lost. Nothing made sense to him right then. Old Master's face shifted. He realized Fan didn't think like everyone else, so he had to break it down in a way Fan would actually get. Fan gets an idea tossed his way. Head to the real estate place down the street and pick up a part-time gig. Since he's all about stacking cash, the plan is simple: pass out flyers, see if any survivors want to move into their building, and help out while racking up some extra agency money. As soon as Fan heard there was a chance to make some cash with a part-time job, his eyes lit up. He sprinted straight for the gate, ready to prove himself to Old Master without wasting a second. Grandma thought this had to be some kind of setup, but Old Master wasn't buying it. He'd spent years in the military and never seen anyone like. The dude was just built different, almost unreal with how strong he was. People were starting to think he might actually be the last shot for everyone. After getting some pointers, Fan started roaming around the wasteland, rolling with the whole rental agent vibe, on the hunt for people who might want to move in. He hadn't gone far when it rolled up his way. The guy inside wondered if he should squad up with him to try and make it through the apocalypse together. Fan didn't even hesitate, he just turned it down right away. He was busy with work and already had his own spot, so there was no reason for him to say yes. Once he heard that, the guy floored it and took off, not even thinking twice. The woman riding shotgun couldn't shake this weird feeling. Were they seriously about to leave him behind? She knew the sound of the engine was basically an invite for a whole squad of zombies to show up. Let out a deep breath, knowing there's only so much they could actually do. The guy didn't even want their help, he'd turn them down on his own. Just from the way he talked, started to think that kid wasn't all there. At the same time, a huge horde of zombies came charging at Fan, moving almost as fast as track runners. It was obvious these regular zombies had leveled up. Fan's stats had already passed any number anyone could actually count. He swung his blade once and tore through a whole group of zombies, body parts and guts flying everywhere. Fan checked out the pile of zombies he just took down and let out a breath. That round was way tougher than the ones before. These zombies were definitely leveling up. Good thing he still had his assistant system, so he kept leveling up too. Once finished dealing with the zombies, he glanced up without even thinking about it. He noticed someone had scribbled an SOS on the window of an apartment, and the narrator were both 19. Was known online as a dance streamer, she had crazy good looks and 1 million followers, so everyone knew her face. After the apocalypse hit, she just stayed inside, barely going out, only making it this far because she barely ate anything. On the third day, she caught some noise and voices right outside her door. She thought about letting them in, but when she checked through the peephole, it was just little brother Bing standing there. Handled things as her agent, always keeping it professional. Bing, on the other hand, just wasted his days gambling and never respected her. He always gave her that weird look. With the world basically ending, wasn't about to step in if Bing decided to mess with her. Honestly, he might even back him up. She never opened the door even when they tried everything to get her out. Now her food was finished. She was legit about to go hungry for real. While all this was going down, Bing couldn't stop talking to his sister about her. He kept hyping up her legs, her waist, and the way her hips looked. Just thinking about it had him all worked up. The security door wasn't budging at all. No matter how hard he tried to force it, the thing just wouldn't move. called him out saying it was all on him for making things so obvious. Meanwhile, Bing just laughed it off, like, it's the end of the world, so what's the point in pretending anymore? Right then, footsteps started up outside, heard someone whispering, telling his sister to stay quiet. Something was definitely moving around out there. He peered through the peephole, making sure to catch everything going on outside. Fan walked up to room 1705 and knocked, hoping someone was there. And I had never hit this level of desperation before. She sat tucked into the corner, yelling for everyone to leave her alone. She figured it was Bing messing with her again. She was barely holding it together, even thinking about grabbing a knife from the kitchen and just ending it all. Still, she knew that guy was so twisted, he'd probably do something even worse after she was gone. Stood at the door knocking over and over, but nobody answered. It was just dead silent inside. He got this weird gut feeling like something was really off. Whoever was inside might not even be able to call out anymore. He knew he had to move, and fast. Just like that, Fan threw a punch and blew the security door wide open. He walked in and saw a woman who looked stunning, clutching a small knife. Her hands were shaking like she was barely holding it together. Fan tried to calm her down, but seriously, who wouldn't freak out? Some random dude just busted through her door during the apocalypse. Fan realized he knew who she was. She was that dance streamer, and he remembered dropping $100 on her stream one time, even though he usually just watched for free and never sent donations. But her dancing was next level, so he figured it was worth it. And the narrator pressed the knife against her neck, keeping her at a distance. They warned her straight up not to take another step, or they'd do something drastic right there. There was no way they were about to let her take control. Back in the dorms, she and her roommate had once streamed a film from an island nation. A wild story about a woman getting captured and treated worse every single day, basically broken down until she followed every command. She always thought movies went overboard, making stuff up for drama. But now she realized some people actually did stuff that messed up in real life. Fan tried to explain himself. He was just a housing agent doing his job, walking past when he spotted that SOS sign in the window. That caught his attention, so he decided to see what was up. About the busted front door, yeah, that was him, but he honestly thought someone inside might be in trouble since it was all quiet. So he went for it, hoping he wasn't too late. And he just froze, an agent calling for backup. Something definitely went down. But what really threw him off was thinking about someone actually smashing through a steel door. No way a regular dude could pull that off, right? Fan lifted his hand up toward the sky. Honestly, he was just here to scope things out and maybe do a bit of promo for some houses. His place looked pretty rough, honestly. People might wonder if he ever thought about just moving out and finding somewhere better. He usually points people towards Sunshine Community. The place has been around for a while, but ever since he started running things, it stayed chill, tidy, and super safe. Everyone living here is legit top tier in their own thing. There are doctors, teachers, some big-name veterans, factory ladies who used to work for the military, and even a guy who fixes the internet when it goes down. Downstairs, there's a whole outdoor gym setup, plus some farmland they built themselves. Best part, it doesn't even break the bank. Once he heard everything, froze up. His fear got replaced by straight-up disbelief. When Fan noticed her face soften, he knew for sure she was letting her guard down, actually starting to let him in. He moved forward, taking his time. He totally got that she was scared. With everything going on, someone like her probably had it way tougher than most. Even with all the chaos out there, some people still show real kindness. He knew it was better to head towards something good. He just wanted the other guy to chill out and drop the knife. He glanced at the flyer, hoping it might spark some ideas. Stood there holding the flyer and he just looked at it with her. The whole thing honestly seemed kind of wild. She had to ask, she just needed to know who this person really was. Fan grinned. He was the guy from agency, always helping people find better spots to live. Renting out places was his thing, and he knew the Sunshine Community was where people should check out if their current place just wasn't it. He motioned for everyone to take a seat, getting ready to show what he'd brought. Fan was showing off some places, pointing out one in Building 1, Room 504. It had 2 bedrooms, a living room, and was about 60 square meters. Rent was set at $1,500 a month, and it even had an elevator, so getting in and out was no hassle. But since she was a girl and streamed online, Fan figured she probably had a load of clothes. He thought a bigger spot in Building 2, Unit 2 would just fit her vibe better anyway. The last person living here was a girl too, and she just moved out a couple days back. And the guy started wondering if something was off with Fan. The second they brought it up, Fan's face switched to annoyed, like he was seriously over it. He felt like he was just trying to help by suggesting places, but now he was getting roasted for it. If they didn't want the place, he was cool to bounce. And the narrator noticed him standing up to go, so they both jumped in fast and stopped him. They didn't want him to dip, so they said sorry and tried to clear things up right away. Lin knew that staying positive was key if he wanted to start making real cash. He decided to let it go and move forward. And he still had to ask each other if this was how things always went with her, since she was acting pretty weird. She noticed his face get serious, and she quickly tried to clear things up. She didn't want him to get the wrong idea, so she started explaining herself right away. Fan didn't let her finish talking. He shot back, thinking it was weird she called him not normal. In his mind, people always act like the end of the world means you can do whatever you want, but that's the real problem. Everyone just makes things worse that way. During the apocalypse, zombies aren't even the real problem. It's other people you gotta watch out for. He just keeps sticking to how things used to be, not changing up because he's got the power to make it work. And he glanced over at the guy again. Yeah, he acted kind of off, but what he said actually checked out. Was he just acting goofy so people wouldn't take him seriously? Didn't really matter. The place was trashed. Hanging around here was basically asking for trouble. He needed to get out. Fan grinned, checking if they were serious about getting a spot. And the other guy didn't even hesitate. They nodded fast. He was down to rent the place Fan mentioned. Fan kept going, telling him to grab his stuff, and he just looked at Fan, not sure what was up. Fan broke it down. Since he was moving out, he'd need to take everything important with him, like his things, bank cards, and any cash he had. The new place was going to cost $1,800 a month. And he just froze for a second, not knowing what to do. He honestly just wanted to dip and get out of there. Money didn't even matter anymore. He couldn't figure out if the guy was faking it or if that was actually how he was. About 10 minutes later, glanced her way, totally confused. She was already finished packing, that was it. Yen nodded, letting Fan know there were people still stuck downstairs and they weren't friendly. She was worried they might get trapped in the building. Fan stayed chill as he walked her down the stairs. He acted like he had it all under control. Remembered how he literally punched through a reinforced door earlier, so yeah, she figured he could handle this too. When they got to the next floor, Bing's door flew open out of nowhere. He gripped a kitchen knife tight, eyeing as she tried to move. He was dead serious. If the kid didn't send that woman out right away and leave, things were about to get real bad for him. Fan stood his ground, not even thinking about backing up. A tiny smile started to show on his face, like he was enjoying the moment. He usually keeps a straight face, barely ever smiling unless something really gets to him. He's not trying to be rude, but he can't help asking how the other guy plans to make him regret what he did. In the blink of an eye, Fan darted forward and grabbed the knife right out of his hand before anyone could even react. Bing just froze, like his brain couldn't process what he was seeing. None of it felt real to him, almost like he glitched out for a second. He just pulled the knife, hoping the dude would back off and let the woman go. But out of nowhere, the other guy snatched the knife right out of his hand, like it was nothing. That move was definitely not what anyone would call normal. Fan didn't go after him. Instead, he pointed out that carrying a knife around like that was risky stuff. Even just waving it at someone without actually hurting them could get you in trouble with the law. The way things suddenly got all serious just left Bing even more lost. He grabbed the knife back from Fan without even thinking about it. Fan told him to chill and hold it right this time, and basically warned that if he tried anything again, things would get ugly fast. Bing just stood there, eyes glued to the knife. His mind went totally blank, none of this was adding up, and he had no idea what was happening. Thought about stopping Fan from handing over the knife, but by the time he tried, Fan had already done it. She remembered how, when she started blowing up online, she treated like family, always hooking her up with cash and chances, basically giving her everything. But now, with the world falling apart, acted like she didn't even know her, and was even helping her own brother mess things up for her. Fan glanced back and motioned for her to come with him, ready to head out. Bing locked his eyes on, obviously wanting more, and told everyone to chill. Fan shot him a quick sideways look, his face totally unreadable, and tossed out another question without warming up at all. Bing moved in closer, gripping the kitchen knife. He'd been into this girl for what felt like forever, and there was no way he was just going to let her walk out now. He finally worked up the nerve to call out Fan, basically accusing him of just wanting her for her looks. Fan instantly felt disrespected, like the dude was just trashing his whole vibe. That wasn't something he'd let slide. Bing looked at with this gross, creepy stare. He basically gave her a warning. If she stuck around, it'd just be him to deal with. But if she tried to leave with that other guy, there's no telling how many dudes she might run into. Could be a handful, could be a ton. Didn't matter if they were fat, short, or just straight up weird looking. He painted this nasty picture like they'd all line up one after another until she couldn't take it anymore. Everything's fallen apart, no rules, no one looking out for you, and honestly, nobody even cares. Sticking around is the move, since the only problem you've got here is him. Those words just wouldn't leave alone, echoing in his head nonstop. Bing totally gave up on his dreams. For him, anything was better than sticking around. Bing just got turned down and you could see something snap in his eyes. He pinned all the blame on Fan, thinking none of this would happen if it wasn't for him. In his mind, Yen wouldn't have even tried to stand up to him. He figured the only reason the knife got snatched was because he slipped up, since no regular person should be that quick. Stuck in his own head, he started looking even more unhinged. He brought the sharp kitchen knife down on Fan, not holding back at all. Yenmin's face lost all its color. She yelled out, trying to warn Fan before anything bad happened. Figured Yen was probably freaking out already. Later on, she just had to help her brother keep the guy under control. Out of nowhere, Bing just passed out and got thrown backward, like he'd been hit with some serious force. He slammed straight into the wall, leaving cracks spreading out everywhere like a spider web. Fan pulled his right leg back real slow, keeping his cool the whole time. He knew he messed up. He was the one who set himself up for this. Just froze. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This dude was on another level, taking out Bing in literally no time. Backed off quick and hurried over to see if her brother was even breathing. They kept heading down floor after floor and started spotting zombie bodies all over the place, totally wrecked. He was thinking, did you really take out all of these? When Fan showed up, zombies were just roaming everywhere. Out of nowhere, they started going after him, so he had to fight back. Was really curious about what this guy actually did for work. Fan let out a tired sigh. He'd already explained this before. He was just a real estate agent working at agency. No way he and Nene were buying it. The whole thing felt straight out of some basic drama show. Just a regular job on the outside, but secretly there was a lot more going on. When they got out to the street, kept looking around, kind of surprised that Fan was just out here like it was no big deal. Fan wasn't bothered though. He was used to it. Living in the apocalypse meant everything was a hassle and he had to hustle just to get by. The whole real estate gig wasn't the full story either. He also worked as a security guard for the neighborhood. He kept things under control around here. An old man actually paid him for helping out. Picked up on something new. Fan's main job was being a security guard, not a food delivery guy. But every now and then, if survivors needed something, Fan would help out and make some side cash running errands. Couldn't believe what she just found out. Everything lined up: the realtor, the security guy, the runner. All these jobs were actually covers for something way bigger, something like a Dragon King panel. She realized she just connected with someone powerful, and honestly, she felt like she just hit the jackpot. Just thinking about it, she started laughing to herself. Fan glanced over, kind of confused by her reaction. He thought it was a real shame. She seemed like a great girl, but honestly, she was clueless sometimes.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.